Good morning. Senate will come to order. Time for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order at this time. I will ask all unauthorized personnel to exit the chamber. Recognize the Senator from the 6th.
Good morning, Mr. President. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well,
Fine day 39. Mr. President, we've got a lot of great pages here today from all over this state.
Let me get everybody's attention. The Senator from the 6th. Everybody, settle down.
Out of Atlanta, Georgia, we have Sebastian Almeida Hall. From Dahlonega, Isaac Anderson. From Decatur, Dot Ciccarelli. From Jefferson, Colson Collins and Vitalia Collins. Actually, Vitalia Collins is from Atlanta. From Alamo, Georgia, we have brothers Camden and Clayton Dixon. From Alpharetta, Timothy Driscoll. From Fairburn, Briley Elijah. From Atlanta, Connor Farnsworth. From South Fulton, Alyssa Fields. From Atlanta, Lauren Griffin. From Alamo, Ezra Hammonds. From Commerce, Owen Hilly. From Gainesville, Oliver Hutchison and Piper Kimsey. From Brookhaven, we have brother and sister Anthony and Amanda Congoasa. From Augusta, Will Morrison. From Sewanee, Siri Mupidi. From Tucker, Liberty Odom. From Atlanta, Liam Petra. From Dallas, Emily Smith. And from Marietta, Emma Tyson. Y'all give these pages a big round of applause. We appreciate you being here, helping us do the people's business in the People's Chamber. Mr. President, this is the thickest journal I've received yet, but it has been read and found to be correct, and I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal.
Is there objection to the dispensing and the reading of the journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. First reading of Senate bills. Secretary, read the captions.
Senate Bill 368 by Senator Ginn on the 47th. Bills being entitled an act to create the Northeast
State and local government.
Senate Bill 369 by Senator Still the 48th and others.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 370 by Senator Dolezal the 27th and others. Bills being entitled
Ethics.
Senate Resolution 517 by Senator Dolezal the 27th and others. Resolution applauding Senator Brandon Beach for his exceptional service in the Georgia State Senate, his leadership in both
Rules.
Senate Resolution 533 by Senator James the 28th. The resolution creating the Senate. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary read reports of standing committee.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same act to the Senate with the following recommendation: House Bill 786 to pass, House Bill 799 to pass, House Bill 801 to pass, House Bill 802 to pass, House Bill 816 to pass, House Bill 839 to pass, House Bill 845 to pass, House Bill 803 to pass, House Bill 805 to pass, House Bill 806 to pass, House Bill 807 to pass, House Bill 846 to pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon, the 40th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Senator from the 56.
Mr. President, I'd ask unanimous consent that the senator from the 51st be excused for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 51st is excused. Recognize the senator from the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th and the 7th.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th and the 7th is excused. Any other motions? Any other motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 46th. Senator from the 29th. It is now time for the morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. So all my good house members might have to exit the chamber here. I know y'all working hard and y'all like to be a part of the Senate. But we're full over here right now. But y'all can come back in a little bit. I recognize the senator from the 40th to lead us in our pledge and introduce the pastor of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and for the principles of which it stands, justice, moderation, and courage. It is my pleasure to introduce the Reverend Elizabeth Mitchell Clement, known also as Reverend Liz. She is my pastor and the designated senior minister at Central Congregational United Church of Christ in DeKalb County. She and her husband Arthur have lived in Atlanta since 1981 and raised their 2 grown sons here. She has no grandchildren yet, but she said she's not allowed to talk about that. She and Arthur reside in the district of my friend and the senator from the 36th. Although a native of California, Reverend Liz received all her higher education in the South, Talladega College in Alabama, Georgia State University, and the Candler School of Theology at Emory University. Reverend Liz isn't the average pastor. She has a particular call and gift for walking into congregations in transition, often between pastors, helping them rediscover themselves amid difficult change, which is what she's busy doing in my congregation right now. From the Carter White House to teaching ethics and leading spiritual life at Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts, and now back at home working to nurture and support the next generation of spiritual leaders, Reverend Liz has a clear commitment to the common good and a healthy civic life. As she says in her purpose statement, I am a woman of a certain age, called to give my gifts to create spaces for healing, wholeness, and hope, one at a time, fearlessly. Welcome, Reverend Liz.
I need a booster seat. Mr. President, Senator Harrell, I am here this morning because I answered a call. First up was the call from Sally Harrell, but before that, it was a call to serve the church. Later, that call became quite specific in the voice of my teenage son, who at a time when he had absolutely no use for his mother or anything she might say, addressed me voluntarily to say, "Mom, you know what grown-ups can do for kids? No, you can help us learn to make good choices." He stood up, and just as he walked out of the room, he said, "And that's all." As he left, I thought maybe grown-ups could use that too. I knew he was right. And that has been my blessing and my challenge every day since, to help others make good choices for themselves and for their neighbors. My suspicion is that every one of you in this august chamber this morning has also answered a call to serve. Many of you will remember the very moment when you heard it and answered it. That moment in time when you knew that you would give yourself to answering that call. That moment when you took your first steps that would shape the rest of your life. If your experience has been anything like mine, you have often prayed for courage, for strength, for love and support, all of which is required to live in faithful response to a call that comes from beyond you, from beyond yourself, a call to serve a greater good and a hoped-for future. That is my prayer every day, and that is my prayer for all of us this day. Join me now, if you will, in a word of prayer. Gracious God, you whom we know and experience by many names, thank you for calling us to serve your goodness begun in creation. Thank you for considering us worthy co-creators with you. Thank you for the ways in which our service furthers the future you dream of for all of creation. Even as we give thanks, there may be days when we wish this responsibility could be assigned to others. We may wish that the responsibilities wouldn't last quite so far into the month of April. We might wish on certain days when that selflessness requires too much of us. It's too heavy a load. And there are days when taking up the dreams of your own heart are just too costly. You know how often we pray for help, to be clear about the ways that honor your confidence in us and the confidence of those we serve. Wherever we serve, help us to honor the realities of lives we cannot know, feel loss and grief that may not be ours, and hold each other in your loving embrace. We thank you above all for walking beside us as we enter these halls, for never leaving us, and for the strength of your own presence that gives us the faith and courage to answer your call each new day. In your own name we pray. Amen.
We have our doctor of the day, and to introduce our doctor of the day, I recognize the senator from the 38th to introduce our doctor of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues and visitors. It is my pleasure to introduce our doctor of the day. I feel like I missed my calling because there are a lot of doctors in Senate District 38. I've been up here a few times this week. Dr. D. Graffenreid is a physician and program director of Appointment Excellence and Auxiliary Access for Kaiser Permanente of Georgia. She is a specialist in adult medicine, where she works closely with her healthcare team to educate her patients and the community on the things they need to be aware of to prevent disease. She believes that our bodies, minds, and relationships all have an effect on our health and encourages her patients to make time to celebrate their lives. Dr. D is a native of Indiana. She is a Hoosier and the youngest of 11 children. Decided in 8th grade that she wanted to be a physician. She graduated from Purdue University with a pharmacy degree, then went on to complete her medical degree at Case Western University in Cleveland. Dr. D, I'm from Ohio, so we need to make sure we point that out. She joined Kaiser Permanente in 2003 and sees patients in Kaiser Permanente's medical offices throughout Metro Atlanta. She is a resident of Southwest Atlanta, and she is very active in the Medical Association of Georgia as president of the Medical Institute of Excellence in Medicine and former task force chairperson. She also serves on the board of the Medical Association of Atlanta. Friends, I introduce you to you Dr. D. Graffenreid of Kaiser Permanente as our doctor of the day.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Kemp, and thank you to all of you. I'm always honored to be here, and I must give thanks to MAG, who allows me the opportunity to be here and serve with Miss Julia down in the medical aid station. She doesn't need me, but I'm happy to be there. And MAG also allows me to serve on the Medical Reserve Corps. I like working at Kaiser because our mission is to make sure that we're improving the health of the communities we serve, and looking forward to any opportunities that we have to partner with you as you improve the health of the citizens of Georgia. Happy day number 39. You're almost there, a couple days. Thank you for all the work that you've done. It's April 2nd, and the question on everybody's mind is, what is causing us to have all this stuffy nose and this itchy? It's the tree pollen. Tree pollen count is high. It'll fluff, but it makes for a beautiful spring here in Georgia. So thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you today, and good luck with the last couple of days.
Senator from the 29th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 20th and the 27th.
Without objection, senators from the 20th and 27th are excused. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Senator from the 14th.
What do you think? Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I am the senator from the 14th, and this is Trump Morning News. Trump Morning News, your number one leader in Trump news entertainment, keeping you apprised of the health of your democracy. Well, folks, it's been a long and informative legislative session here in the second Trump era, and I just have to say, we couldn't have done it without viewers like you. This may be our final episode of Trump Morning News, and what a day to celebrate the final episode other than Liberation Day. Folks, that's right. Today, as announced by President Trump, is Liberation Day. liberation from a world without tariffs, liberation from a world without stagflation. We are going to see a new package of tariffs unveiled. Counter tariffs, at this point, I don't know if it's the reply, the response, the re-up, the insist, the disagree, but at this point, we are looking at a brand new tariff package that promises to be the most beautiful package of tariffs. And folks, standing here right now, I can't tell you the contours of all of those. I can just say that finally, American greatness will be restored by taxing individual consumers who will carry the pass-through costs on a range of goods and services, by inflaming our relationships with our allies across the world who have settled into historic economic relationships that are disappearing like wisps in the air, and finally, we will be liberated from the America that we once were. Thank you, Mr. President, and as always, colleagues, there's nothing you can do about this directly because you're state legislators, just a reminder, and there's nothing the Republican Party could have done in the last 20 years to prevent this from happening. With great respect and gratitude, I yield the well.
Always an uplifting message from the senator from the 14th. Recognize senator from the 28th, please.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I am so excited today to have our Juneteenth band upstairs, and it's the 13th annual Parade and Music Festival that's coming up for the 1st of June. But being one of the largest and most impactful Juneteenth celebrations in the whole world, Juneteenth Atlanta has grown from its humble beginnings to an expansion of the cultural movement that unites communities across the Africa diaspora. So celebrating the 13th annual Juneteenth Festival on June 14th and 15th at Piedmont Park. And we have some of the young people that are here today who are going to participate. So will our band stand up, and everyone who came for Juneteenth, and let's give them a warm welcome. They're gonna be at the Unity Plaza in a couple of hours. We thank you. I hope I have a break so I can run out and hear you when you play today. Hello. And if you indulge me for another minute, I stand also to commend the Pan-African American Chamber of Commerce. They are here with us today. Can you stand, please? Okay. Thank you. Now we have a pamphlet on everybody's desk to tell you the events of the day. But thank you for being here, and I'd like to recognize the 4 leaders of this organization: Chairman and President Professor Tooks Onabajo, and the CEO Chuck Barlow. You're Morris Brown out there. You there? Yeah, I know your name. And COO Lauren Angela Mollison. Hi, Angela. God bless you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Senator from the 56, you can be on deck just whenever.
No, I'm sorry, it's not. Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I am very excited to welcome in the Senate gallery members from my church. I see our pastor, Tom Davis, up there, as well as some of the leaders and volunteers of the Roswell United Methodist Church Job Networking Ministry. It's something that I have been proud to be a part of for over 2 decades now. This organization, which works with all folks who are looking for employment, has helped over 90,000 people, has been nationally recognized. An ABC with Diane Sawyer, our very own Clark Howard here with WSB. Books have been written about it. The leadership and the effort that has continued to expand. In fact, I remember back about 16 years ago when what used to be a smaller group of people used to meet in our small gymnasium. And when the financial markets fell, we walked in one Monday and 400 people had showed up. And we quickly had to move what was a small operation to a massive operation. It's really been an honor to take a very small role, but really under the leadership of 2 extraordinary people, Catherine Simons and Jay Litton. Who deserve so much credit for helping all those folks out. Each and every person that had lost a job at one point of their life was in a very difficult position for themselves and for their family. And to have someone that would care for them, would pray for them, and then help them to get back in the job market, and to have those very same people then come back and want to volunteer to help that ministry is nothing short of divine and extraordinary. So today I have a resolution that I will be presenting to them and doing some pictures afterwards. But just know the great things that are happening in Roswell United Methodist Church, along with partnerships in the Roswell Rotary and so many other groups in our state. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 39th. Senator from the 39th. Recognize senator from the Congress lady. I was about to. You getting just like Congress folks now.
Good morning, colleagues. I rise today to recognize WCLK Jazz 91.9, which is housed on the campus of Clark Atlanta University and has served with excellence for 50 years. WCLK is more than a radio station, it's a cultural institution. For half a century, it has been the heartbeat of jazz in Atlanta, preserving a sound that is uniquely American and deeply rooted in Black artistry. Jazz is innovation, improvisation, resilience. It has given voice to movements, carried the emotions of a people, and shaped the sound of America. And for 50 years, WCLK has carried that tradition forward, not just preserving jazz, but keeping it alive and thriving. At a time when independent voices in media are increasingly rare, WCLK remains an important institution, elevating artists, educating listeners, and ensuring that jazz and the stories behind it remain front and center and reaches future generations. It's been a training ground for the next generation of broadcasters, giving young talent a platform to learn and grow. It's a sanctuary for jazz lovers. So today, let's celebrate 50 years of swinging, soulful, uncompromising excellence, and let's commit to ensuring institutions like WCLK continue to thrive. Please join me in saluting our WCLK guests here in the gallery. Wendy Williams, General Manager, Deb Moore, host of Jazz and Sundown, Kipling Primus, Ray Cornelius, and David Minton. Thank you. Here's to the next 50.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 40th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, almost 2 weeks ago, paramedics in Tifton, Georgia, responded to a call about an unconscious young woman. When they arrived, they determined the woman had experienced a miscarriage. Gestational age, 19 weeks. The next day, instead of recovering from that miscarriage at home, 24-year-old Salina Maria Chandler Scott was arrested and booked into the Tift County Sheriff's Office. She was charged with 1 count of concealing the death of another person and another count of abandonment of a dead body. Since Ms. Chandler Scott miscarried at home, she had placed the fetal tissue in a bag and disposed of it in the apartment dumpster. An autopsy confirmed that the miscarriage was natural. The fetal tissue had never taken in air, yet due to the passage of House Bill 481 in 2019 by this legislature, the miscarried fetus had the rights of a full human being. In other words, Ms. Chandler Scott's miscarriage was criminalized due to the personhood component of Georgia's 6-week abortion ban. This case demonstrates the idiocy of fetal personhood. Every woman of reproductive age in Georgia who miscarries beyond the 6-week marker of Georgia's law can now be criminalized for a miscarriage. For example, a woman miscarries at home at 8 weeks. She would typically sit on the toilet, pass mostly blood, and maybe if she attempted to search through the blood, she might find some fetal tissue the size of a bean. She would flush the toilet at the completion of the miscarriage, then she would simply need to rest. If she has nothing else beyond this, her freedom could be taken from her because she has now committed 2 felonies: the concealment of death by a person punishable up to 10 years, and the abandonment of a dead body punishable by 3 years. This is terrifying for women of reproductive age in Georgia. It is the criminalization of women's bodies. It subjects women to either publication of their most private moments or the fearful hiding and shaming of their natural body processes. It is insanity and just plain wrong. It's injecting judgment upon the forces of nature outside a woman's control. The legislature needs to refrain from assuming for themselves the wrath and judgment of God. Admit they did wrong and reverse the personhood component of the 2019 abortion ban. Salina Maria Chandler Scott is not just one woman. She is all of us. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Recognize Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I rise today in recognizing Senate Resolution 514, which we'll vote on in a minute, as World Autism Awareness Day. April 2nd is World Autism Awareness Day. It's also day 2 of Autism Acceptance Month, which is the entire month of April. In looking at this, I wanted to highlight and think about the differences between awareness and acceptance. I think it's only fitting that we start April by recognizing Awareness Day. We spend the rest of the month celebrating Autism Acceptance Month. Looking back at my time in the legislature, I realized it was 10 years ago that this body led on a bill that would make sure that young children and young families in our state had access to insurance coverage for autism care, making certain that we had early intervention for young children that were facing this condition in our state, making sure that our families had resources to help deal with autism from an early age. That bill has made such a difference for so many families in our state. And I think about all those leaders back then that were ahead of their times, those who already were at the acceptance stage while the rest of us are trying to get to the awareness stage. And I want to recognize those people. Some members of this body were here then, others that have gone on that worked so hard on that issue back then. And it seems crazy today to think that we would not have that law, that we would not have coverage for young children with autism in our state. And it shows you how far we've come as a state. On my desk, I have some blue bracelets. You've noticed, maybe some of y'all noticed, I've worn a blue bracelet this past session to honor my son. And this comes from Dr. Zena, his doctor down in Statesboro, Georgia, that some of y'all know as well, another senator from the 4th knows well. And she has a 501c3 she started back in 2018 that focuses on autism awareness and acceptance, especially in rural Georgia and our rural communities. A lot of what they do is they go and help teach families and teach people such as individuals in law enforcement how to handle, how to recognize autism. It's important for us to know that we all come in different ways in this world, viewing the world through different lenses. God made us all different. And what's important when looking at the issue of autism is those who have autism just look at the world in a different way. And for us, it's important that we recognize that. And I hope that if you'll come get a blue bracelet, that you'll remember as we look at legislation these last legislative days, also looking at our budget, think about those families, think about those people who view the world through the lenses of autism. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends and colleagues, I'm really excited to welcome some of my community leaders at the Georgia Senate Gallery this morning. So I have two groups here present. We did a resolution last week, the resolution 471, recognized April 2025 as Arab American Heritage Month and for other purposes. As you know, more than 100 years, Arab American community contributing to the state of Georgia. And as some of my friends here today, I just want you to know I appreciate what you do for the community. And the other resolution we did is Resolution 472, recognizing and commending Alligator Alumni Association of Atlanta, which is they contribute to the education, community service, and Atlanta's largest Muslim community gathering, Eid al-Fitr. As you know, we just had a fast in Ramadan for 30 days. Right after now, we had our Eid on Sunday. Next Saturday, on April the 5th, we'll have one of the largest gatherings. So I invite all my colleagues to join, and I'm going to give you all, send you information what it is. And I want to ask my colleagues and friends in the gallery to stand up and hope we can give them the warm welcome for their community service, what they do to our community. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Recognize Senator from 36.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I come to the well with mixed news. Some would think it good, some would think it bad. But yesterday, the CDC layoffs letters came out. Tens of thousands of Georgians work for the CDC. We know it well. It is a beloved institution. 7 CDC employees live within 2 blocks of my home here in Atlanta. They are throughout our state. They work globally on polio, on disease outbreaks, on smoking cessation. The CDC, whether you know it or not, actually places CDC personnel in underfunded Georgia County health departments. Yes, they do. Our own public health director, Commissioner Toomey, came from a CDC background. And we were blessed to have her talents here at the state capitol and in state government for decades now. There's no question in anybody's mind that's willing to look at the facts that the CDC plays an incredibly crucial role, a crucial role in our state, in our nation, and internationally. So that's news that's hard to hear. We have people in this very chamber who have relatives at the CDC that have been laid off, who worked on infectious disease, who worked to get a PhD to go get a job at CDC and share their talents. That is yet another blow on the wrong side of the equation. Another thing that happened yesterday is that Musk and his crowd put $43 million into a Wisconsin Supreme Court justice election. Their candidate lost bigly. I'm here to say that people have their eyes wide open. The voters have been stirred to action. They realize increasingly that they need to reject this Musk-Trump agenda because it promises to deny services that our people rely on and bring recession, high prices, eggs through the roof, cars costing each American family $1,800. So the word is out about what Musk and Trump are delivering, and the voters are not accepting it. That's a word to the wise as we go back to our districts. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? You have before you a consent calendar of privileged resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of resolutions on the consent calendar? Chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that SR 487 be withdrawn from the Committee on State and Local Government and committed to the Committee on Rules.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 487 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a resolution supporting the Ray's City Community Library's membership in state-supported public library services and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the senator's motion? Hearing no objection, motion granted. You have before you a consent calendar of study committee resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Hearing none, the question is on the consent calendar for the study committees. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? Hearing none, those in favor of the study committee resolutions will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption resolution, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0, and this has received the resident constitutional majority and is therefore adopted. You have before you a consent calendar of local bills. Ms. Secretary, have there been any objections filed on any of the bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, no objections have been filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee on state and local governmental operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bill on the local consent calendar? Senator from the 42nd, for what purpose do you rise?
I rise to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 19th. He's in conference committee. I don't know if I can do that from the floor, but he's in conference.
Okay. Without objection, the senator is excused. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. Senator from the 31st, what purpose do you rise?
I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 49th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 49th is excused. Questions on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. The bills on the local consent calendar, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the appointment to the Judicial Legal Defense Fund Commission be confirmed as submitted.
Secretary, read the report of committee.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Assignments has had under consideration the following appointment to the Judicial Legal Defense Fund Commission. Honorable Chris Hughes, appointed by the President of the Council of Superior Court Judges, and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that the appointments be confirmed as submitted. Respectfully submitted, Honorable Burt Jones, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection? Without objection, we're going to put it on the board for one roll call. So those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the confirmation, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and this appointment is confirmed. Senator from the 31st, for what purpose you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 37th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator is excused. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that the following bills be engrossed at this time. Senate Bill 214, House Bill 66, House Bill 79, House Bill 129, House Bill 134, House Bill 141, House Bill 370, House Bill 397, House Bill 445, House Bill 463, House Bill 532, House Bill 586, and House Bill 652.
Secretary, read the captions.
House Bill 129 by Representative Cannon, the 172nd, and others. Bill between town and act to amend Code Section 48-5-7.4, the official code of Georgia annotated related to preferential assessment for bona fide conservation use property and bona fide residential transitional property, so as to remove a limitation on leased property as to certain entities, provide for related matters, to provide for effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 532 by Representative Deloach, the 167th, the bill between town and act to amend Code Section 2012-6A-12, the OCGA, related to annual grant where a state owns property and calculations, so as to revise provisions related to certain counties claiming such grant while also claiming similar grants in Chapter 14, Title 48, related to grants and special revenue disbursements to amend Code Section 48-14-4, the OCGA, related to annual grants to counties with 20,000 or more acres of unimproved real estate owned by the Department of Natural Resources to provide provisions related to counties claiming such grant and for other purposes. House Bill 180 by Representative Smith, the 18th, and others, bill between town and act to amend Chapter 9, Title 15 of the OCGA related to probate courts as to modify certain requirements for probate judges to provide for related matters, for bill conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 397 by Representative Fleming of the 114th and others, bill between town and act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA related to elections and primaries generally, so as to allow municipalities to opt in to providing advance voting on Saturdays for municipal elections, revise provisions related to timelines for calling special elections and the dates on which special elections can be held, to provide for related matters, repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Senate Bill 214 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others, bills between title and act to amend Chapter 2, Title 21 of the OCGA related to elections and primaries generally, so as to authorize electors to cast physical absentee on request ballots as an alternative to using other authorized means of casting in-person votes, to provide procedures for form collection and tabulation of such ballots, to rise reporting provisions to reference such ballots, to provide for related matters, repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 586 by Representative Williamson, the 112th, and others, bill between town and act to amend Article 3, Chapter 6, Title 48 of the OCGA related to intangible recording tax, so as to revise the notes for which such tax is imposed, to provide for procedures, to revise definitions, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 370 by Representative Gaines, the 120th, and others, bill between town and act to amend Code Section 48-5-34 of the OCGA related to ad valorem property tax bill form, so as to require the property tax bill for any school district that opts out of the statewide base year homes exemption to state the total amount for the school district's reserve funds, to require a statement on the property tax bill regarding certain political subdivisions that do not have an effect base year home stead exemption, to provide for related matters, to provide for effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 66 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, and others, bill between town and act to amend Chapter 5C of Title 48 of the OCGA related to title ad valorem tax on motor vehicles, so as to expand the definition of a rental motor vehicle with respect to the tax, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 463, Representative Blackmon, and 146 and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1, Article 2, Chapter 5, Title 48 of the OCGA relating to tax exemptions as provided for a statewide homestead exemption for ad valorem taxes for certain senior citizens who volunteer with local governments in an amount to be determined by such local governments and for other purposes. House Bill 141 by Representative Montahan of the 17th and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-13-14 of the OCGA relating to levy on business or practitioner with location or office in one or more jurisdiction, allowing gross receipts and limits on levies using criteria for taxation so as to allow businesses and practitioners to write for affidavits and for other purposes. House Bill 134 by Representative Camp of the 135th and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the OCGA relating to revenue taxation so as to provide for definitions, to rise to expand a sales tax exemption for manufactured homes, to provide for a sunset date, to provide for legislative findings, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 652 by Representative Jones, the 25th, and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 and Chapter 9 of Title 48 of the OCGA related to motor fuel tax so as to provide for an exemption for the collection of motor fuel taxes relative to electricity delivered by certain electric vehicle charging stations, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, and repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 445 by Representative Martin of the 49th, the bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA related to ad valorem taxation of property so as to revise the language required to be included in the notices of current assessment and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Before we move on, I want to recognize a former colleague of ours, Senator Fran Miller here from DeKalb County. Give him a round of applause. Thank you. Good to see the senator. You know, he looks relaxed and stress-free. I'm just wondering how he does it. Is there objection? We have objection. Senator, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, these bills that we're engrossing all came from ethics or finance. Some of them actually got recommitted to rules, and they've been vetted even more. There's probably 14 or 15 up there, but that's because our calendar's so long. This is the longest calendar that I believe we've had in decades between now and Friday. So we have about 85 or 90 bills on our calendar, and these are the ones that came out of ethics and finance, so nothing unusual, just for the people that may be watching back home.
Senator from the 41st. Senator from the second, you good? All right, the senator from the majority leader has moved that we engross these bills, and we have objection from the senator from the 41st. We'll just put it up on the board. All those in favor of the motion will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from 55th, for what purpose you rise?
Mr. President, is it not true that this is an enormous number of bills that we will not be able to amend, contravening the very principles of democracy and debate to get the best and brightest out of these bills?
Senator is passionate about what he speaks. On the motion to engross, the yeas are 31, the nays are 24, and the motion has prevailed. Recognize the senator from the 42nd.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rules 3-1.2 and 4-2.1A be suspended to allow for the first reading and assignment of a bill.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 371 by Senator Strickland of the 42nd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 and Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia relating to mental health and penal institutions respectively, so as to establish a grant program to create peer support programs in hospitals, to create peer support programs for individuals in penal institutions, to provide for quarterly and annual reports, to provide for consultation and cooperation with agencies, courts, organizations, and any entity which interacts with individuals who are incarcerated on parole or on probation, or establish peer mentor programs, to provide for rules and regulations, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes.
Is there objection? No objection. We'll assign it to judiciary.
Yes, sir.
You gonna keep going?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it. This can.
All right, on to the rules calendar. Secretary reads Senate Resolution 237.
Senate Resolution 237 by Senator Hickman of the 4th and others, a resolution urging the Professional Standards Commission in collaboration with the Department of Education, the Department of Early Care and Learning, the Office of Student Achievement, University System and Technical College System of Georgia, the Georgia Student Finance Commission to provide recommendations with support for the state's K-12 education workforce and teacher and school leader pipeline and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute: Senate Resolution 237, a resolution urging the Professional Standards Commission in collaboration with the Department of Education, Department of Early Care and Learning, and Teachers Retirement System, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, the lack of our children reading on grade level is almost like snakes on a rock. Every time you pick up a rock, there's another snake there. And that's kind of what we found out with literacy. But thank goodness and thank the Lord, our legislative body is making a difference to that. As you recall, we passed House Bill 538 and Senate Bill 211, which replaced sight words and started using phonics, the science of reading. In House Bill 307, and thanks to the Senator from the 44th, we identified dyslexia as a primary problem with children reading. We've also talked about vision. We talked about hearing. Thanks to the Senator from the 18th, we've addressed absenteeism as a problem. Thanks to the Senator from 38th, we've addressed 3Qing as a problem. Thanks to the Senator from 46, who did a great job on school safety the other day as a problem. And Senator from 31st, cell phone use, K through 8th grades. Thank you for addressing it. And then additional monies were put in the budget this time for literacy coaches. Senator from 19th, thank you. And then, of course, I can't go without saying the passion that the Senator from the 12th and the Senator from 14th, excuse me, the Senator from 12th and the Senator from the 45th have on teacher vacancies. So this is an urgent resolution, which means it's necessary and it's an emergency, and it's not a next year type situation. We will not have students reading proficiently if we don't have teachers in the classrooms. Jody Barrow with the Professional Standards Commission told us that in December of 2024, there were 5,300 vacancies in Georgia in classroom teachers. The good news about that is in December of 23, there were over 6,000. So you see where we're going. We just, out of 5,300 vacancies, that's an average of 29 vacant teachers in each school district. We need solid recommendations for improvement. And who will provide that? Well, I'm fixing to tell you. So we must work in collaboration with the Professional Standards Commission. We've asked them to head it up in cooperation with the Department of Education, Department of Early Care and Learning, the Teacher Retirement System of Georgia, Office of Student Achievement, University System of Georgia, the Technical Colleges System of Georgia, and the Georgia Student Finance Commission, and with their input from Education Association to provide recommendations to support the state's K-12 education. The strength and success of the state's education system is essential to economic, social, and cultural development of the state. When is this due? The Professional Standards Commission should submit recommendations to the governor according to time frame determined by the Office of Planning and Budget and to the Senate no later than December 1 of 25. So these recommendations we can adhere to in the next session. And along with that, any proposed legislation or policy or budget changes needed to implement the recommendation. Mr. President, that concludes Senate Resolution 237, and I urge you to vote green. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agree to the report of committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution by substitute. All those in favor vote yea, all opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of this resolution by substitute, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 37.
House Bill 37 by Representative Levitt with the 123rd and others. Bills being intended to amend Subpart 2, Part 6, Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to conditions of employment in elementary and secondary education, so as to require local school systems to provide notice to employees regarding Social Security withholdings and eligibility for inclusion in certain benefits, pensions, or retirement plans, to provide for an effective date, to provide for related matters, for bill-looking laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to House Bill 37, a bill to intend an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 20, the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to elementary and secondary education, so as to require local school systems to provide notice to employees regarding Social Security withholdings and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Senator from the 37th. Senator from the 37th. Senator from the 37th. Senator from the 37th. You're on deck, babe.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, bring before you HB 37. This bill does a couple basic things. The first thing that it does, it creates disclosure. There are a number of counties in which the school system covers the teachers with both Social Security and the teacher retirement system. Other counties only cover them with the teacher retirement system. What this bill does, it creates a notice requirement that what benefits teachers are receiving before they start their term of service. Some folks have moved from teaching in one county to another county thinking that they'd be getting both Social Security and TRS, only to find out down the road that, wait a minute, this school district does not also fund Social Security and TRS both. So it's there's been some really unfortunate circumstances where teachers were unprepared for that circumstance. This is a disclosure bill. This also has a section in it that for charter schools that are approved at the state level, there's an administrative process that validates their nonprofit status as part of their facility transactions. It allows state charter schools to have that done by the Attorney General at the state level versus asking for local development authorities to do that. So glad to take questions.
Do you have questions, Senator? Recognize Senator from the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
My understanding is when you draw Social Security, you have to put so many quarters in.
Correct.
Also, that if you teach in school, they take out taxes on your pay. And you're telling me that school systems are not reporting what they take out on taxes of these employees, which would go to Social Security?
No, sir. What I'm saying is some counties fund, they withdraw funds from teacher salaries and fund TRS and Social Security. Because TRS is a qualified exemption from Social Security, there's not a requirement to do that. So a number of counties, they pull money from teachers' checks, they fund TRS, but they don't put money in Social Security. So after 30 years of teaching, you may have only a TRS retirement and have no Social Security funded your entire 30-year career because your district opted out of the Social Security system.
Senator Yield further.
Yes, sir.
Are you telling me you get paid and they don't take out taxes?
No, sir. What I'm saying is in counties that fund both Social Security and TRS, those counties pull money out of the teacher's paycheck to fund TRS every month, and they pull money out to fund Social Security every month, every pay period. Okay? Some counties do that. Some counties only pull money out to fund TRS, and in those counties, you could be a 35-year educator, and at no time for 35 years has any money been set aside for you for Social Security. And upon your retirement, if you didn't realize that, you've got TRS, but you have not funded Social Security at all. And that is not a surprise. We want folks to find out near the end of their teaching career. This is just a notice requirement to make sure they understand that. You can imagine the horror you'd find out if 25 years into your teaching career you found out, wait a minute, I've only got TRS, I don't have both. Because this county only funds one.
Senator from the 29th, you have a question? Senator from the 29th, your light's on.
It is. The Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, first of all, I want to thank you for this. Myself and the senator from the 20th gathered school district employees from around the state in Columbus and spent a day with them, primarily bus drivers, cafeteria workers, healthcare professionals, and maintenance workers. And we were surprised at the lack of information these employees had about their benefits. Would that not be true?
That is true, and it's amazing. I didn't share the map for the members. There's actually a map of the state, the counties that pull out both and counties that don't. There's no real rhyme or reason to where they do and don't. So teachers moving from one county to another might not be informed that the new county has a different benefit structure.
Senator, for the yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, is this only apply when the employees being hired?
No, sir. What we have in this bill, there's a provision for employees that are upon hire, they're notified, and then every 5 years of employment after that, there's a notification to folks to make sure they're being refreshed of their conditions.
Thank you, Senator.
Recognize Senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does Senator yield?
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for bringing this bill forth.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. Urge your support for House Bill 37.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agree until the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 1. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 105.
House Bill 105, Representative Wade of the 9th and others, a bill to entitle an act to amend Code Section 45-9-78 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated to payment for indemnification for death or disability generally, designation of method of payment and procedure for making payments so as to increase the indemnification award for certain state public school personnel in the event of death, provide for related matters, provide for effective dates or bill smoking laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brash, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers following substitute. The House Bill 105, a bill to entitle an act to amend Article 1, Chapter 9, Title 34 of the OCGA related to general provisions of workers' compensation so as to require that the State Board of Workers' Compensation to notify the Department of Administrative Services when the board has a reasonable cause to believe that an injured worker is eligible peace officers, provide for definition to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
How long has this been? Introduce the senator from the 50th to speak to it. This is a long bill, Senator. This is...
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to bring House Bill 105. There's two parts to this bill. One was amended. I'm going to talk about the underlying bill. What this has to do with is, and it's very serious, it's our educators, people who work in public education, who are injured on the job. In particular, those teachers that are killed at school. This was in response to the tragedy that happened at Appalachia High School. And what this does is, several years ago, we raised the payment for workers' comp or death benefit for police officers or peace officers from $75,000 to $150,000. This does the same for educators and people who work in public education. I'm happy to answer any questions. The additional portions of the bill dealing with workers' comp, I'll let my friend from the 42nd who recently filed paperwork to become our next Attorney General speak about that. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. No questions? Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Recognize Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. If you were here last year, you may recall a bill that we called the Corporal Patsiadli Act. And this year, refiled the bill, did not get through the House last year, and we got it filed a little bit late and did not get it out this year. We got it out of committee, but not to the Senate floor. I want to thank the governor's office that recognized the importance of this bill and agreed to let me take a ride on one of their bills. What this bill is doing is currently, if an officer is injured in the line of duty, as what happened with Corporal Patsiadli in Henry County, who was injured taking down and capturing an individual that killed people in Hampton 2 years ago in a mass shooting. That officer, while they're recovering from injuries, only gets 66% of their pay under workers' comp. And so in Henry County, for example, the community came together and raised money to help offset that. So Corporal Patsiadli, who did recover, went back to work, was able to get his full salary while he was recovering. What this bill is doing, in our research on this, the current law, the state indemnification fund, would allow for an officer to come and get money from that fund and get their full salary and offset the rest of their pay. And so what we're doing with this bill in sections 2 and 3 is we're making certain that the State Board of Workers' Compensation will connect those officers immediately once they get notice that the officer is eligible with this fund so they could then apply and get their full pay. In Section 3, we're also making every law enforcement agency in the state provide notice to their officers of this fund too. This is one of those things where the money was there, they just didn't know about it. And so this bill is providing notice of this fund. There's no fiscal impact on the state. We hope we never have to even use this, but when an officer is hurt in a line of duty, they now will be connected directly to this fund so they can get their full pay. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hearing none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to passage of the bill? Chair hears none, the report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 129.
House Bill 129 by Representative Cannon, the 172nd and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-5-7.4, the Official Code Georgia annotated related to preferential assessment for bona fide conservation use property and bona fide residential transitional properties, has to remove a limitation on leased properties to certain entities to provide for related matters, provide for an effective date and applicability to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brash, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 129, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-5-7.4, the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to preferential assessment for bona fide conservation use property and bona fide residential transitional properties, has to remove a limitation on leased property and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this language should look familiar. House Bill 129. This was actually some language we passed out in Senate Bill 59. We passed it out of here 50-1. This is dealing with our CUVA laws and allowing LLCs to lease land. Current law, if the senator from the 8th and I wanted to lease land from the senator from the 4th, technically we would be in breach of his covenant. So we're just fixing that so that the senator from the 8th and I can lease that from the 4th. It's a very good piece of legislation. It was one of our Farmland Preservation Study Committee recommendations. I want to thank the senator from the 4th for his work on this and the Lieutenant Governor's office and their staff as we move this through the process. There's also a friendly amendment in Section 2 that we're in support of, and I think is a very good addition to the bill, and I think the senator from the 6th will make a few comments on that. So if there are any questions on Section 1, I'll be glad to take them. If not, I'll yield the will.
You do have one question, Senator. I recognize Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
I guess after I push my button, I think you answered the question, but is somebody going to explain the change that was made to it, please?
Yes, sir. The senator from the 6th, I believe, is going to speak to Section 2, which is the changes to the original bill that was passed out of this body.
Thank you.
Dealing with post-production credits.
You have no further questions,
All right.
Senator.
Thank you. Yield the will.
Recognize Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Section 2 was actually in a different bill in a slightly different form, and it's dealing specifically with the post-production film credits. And it came out in economic development, but when it was in economic development, it was that portion of that bill, it was actually going to triple the cap from 10 million to 30 million. It was also going to add back in the sunset that did lapse 2 years ago, and then it was also going to allow films that were filmed outside of the state of Georgia to qualify for the post-production credit as long as they were done here in Georgia. We have, on this amendment, we have taken out the out-of-state portion. We have taken out the part that increases the cap. We're leaving the cap at 10 million, and we're simply adding back in the sunset at the normal 5 years that the senator from the 56 did the study committee years ago, studying tax credits, and decided there'd be a 5-year credit, or 5 year is enough time to study these types of things. So the credit sunset would begin on January 1 of next year, 2026, and would extend for 5 years through January 1 of 2031. I'll yield for questions. Again, the cap is not touched.
You have no questions.
Thank you. Urge your favorable consideration.
Hollywood Brass. All right. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to the agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44 and the nays are 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Well, that might be a good one to break for lunch on. When I got Farmer Watson and Hollywood Brass teaming up on a bill. So we're going to break for lunch. And I think the pro tem has lunch available for the members, and we will try to reconvene probably around 1:15, 1:30, something like that. So Senate will stand at ease.